Hey, what's up everyone? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we're doing a new comparative review for Spider-Man. Let's call this the Ultimate Spider-Man Comparative Review. This isn't every version of Spider-Man that we've gotten in the 6-inch scale, because I think, now don't quote me on this, but I think there's about a zillion different Spider-Man figures, so I don't have all of them, obviously. These are some of the best and the most of the different versions. I don't think I'm missing any versions other than like those goofy like Hydro Armor Spider-Man and things like that. So this is what we're going to be looking at, and there's a couple in here that I don't know too much about, but I will point them out so that you will know at least a little bit about them. Let's go ahead and just point out who's who first, and then we'll go into a little bit of detail. I'm going to use the ruler because I'm sitting kind of far back. Of course, the big guy in the back is Spider-Hulk, part of the Spider-Man Classics line. Super cool figure. He's not without flaws. Of course, there's some paint issues here and there. He's got a mechanism in his body to make his arms go up and down, so he's not perfect, but really cool. Built on the same general body that the Planet Hulk was based on, and it's a cool body, so it's a really cool figure. Then we have over here the Iron Spider-Man. This is the cheaper release of him, where his red is not metallic, but the gold is. There's a release where the red is metallic and the gold is not. I don't care for that. The red looks way better, but the yellow looks really junky. So I got the cheaper one because I like the red with the gold metallic. You can get whichever one you want. I think the only one that's worth much at all anymore is the metallic red one, but either way, they're all relatively cheap. In front of him, we have the red and blue Cyborg Spider-Man. There's a gray version that replaces the blue. Cool figure. Doesn't have quite as much articulation as the others, but you know what? It seems like I'm going into a little bit more detail than just naming them, so we're just going to wing it. Don't hold me to just naming them and then going into detail. We'll do whatever happens. So he has completely new sculpt. Not quite as much articulation, but pretty cool. We have the Target exclusive Red Hulk Wave Black Spider-Man, Black Suit Spider-Man. He's my favorite Black Suit Spider-Man. There is the Toy Biz one, which is a little rounder looking and not quite as tall. He has some benefits to him. I never picked one of those up because I like this one, but some people like the other one better. I like that one. We have the, I guess that's one of the versions of the Scarlet Spider. I'm not 100% sure on that because they have had different versions, and there's of course the one with the hoodie. There goes my phone. There's one with the hoodie, but this one is the one that doesn't have that. Not the best figure. Mostly the same body as the Hasbro Marvel Legends Claw figure, which pretty much sucks. But this guy has a cool head and decent paintwork, so he's cool. Next to him, in the red and black, is the Miles Morales Spider-Man. I think he's in the Ultimate storyline, but I'm not sure. It's not the best figure. He's in that cheap subline that's not really Marvel Legends, or not even really meant to be. It's just like that, the one that's more kid-friendly, I guess. Pretty much all the same articulation though, other than the head, and good enough figure for a collection piece, but not one that's an exceptionally good figure. To the left of him, we have the Big Time Spidey, that's this one, and the Future Foundation Spidey in the white and black. Those are variants of each other. This guy looked awesome at Comic-Con, then they ended up putting way too much green overspray on him, so he doesn't look quite as cool. But he's still a decent figure, and the red or the white and black one looks pretty cool also, so those are both good. Then moving down, we'll do the guys on the end next. This one here and the one on the other side here. It's the same figure. This one is the black and red version with a little bit of white shading. And this is obviously the blue and red version of Spider-Man. I'll grab one of those to show you in a second, but it's not one of the Marvel Legends. It might be Spider-Man Classics. I don't know. He has a great sculpt and pretty good articulation, but the eyes are clear, and he's got like a light-up spider sense mechanism thing on him. Except the light isn't built in, it's in some accessory that I don't have, so I can't show you that. But if you painted his eyes white, he's a great stand-in for a good Spider-Man figure. Moving on, we have the Amazing Spider-Man movie figure. He's got the stature, of course he's got muscles and stuff, but he's got the stature of like a 14-year-old girl, so I don't really care for that Spider-Man. Narrow shoulders, wide hips, don't care for it too much. Then we have the movie Spider-Man, the Spider-Man movie, whatever that was called, the Tobey Maguire one. This is the one that has the magnets in his hands, and he's got more of a black color than blue, but he's one of my favorites from that line, so that's why I chose him. Really good figure. This one up in the front here with the light blue and red is the Snapshot Spidey, one of the most popular Spider-Man figures. He's commonly accepted as the best one. Next to him, now here's something I need to point out. This one in the middle right here that I'm pointing at, and this one over here. One is Sinister Six Spider-Man box set. One is Fearsome Foes. I believe this one is Sinister Six, and this one's Fearsome Foes, but I'm not sure, so check on that. I believe they both come with the webbing under their arms. I only have it on this guy right now, but we can look at that closer later. But either way, he is the same sculpt as the Snapshot Spider-Man, except for there's a little bit of texturing in the pants, it looks like. I don't think that's just paint. And he has a new head, but he is pretty much the exact same figure, just dark blue and slightly different head. And this one, which I think is the Fearsome Foes version, is the exact same sculpt as the McFarlane Spider-Man, which is also one of the more popular ones, except for the head. I don't care for his head too much. Some people do. He's a little bit of a lighter blue. The McFarlane is a darker blue. And of course he has a different head. And this one right here is the black re-release, black and red re-release of the McFarlane Spider-Man. He came in that cheaper subline, but it's the exact same figure, just different paint application. Pretty cool figure if you like the black and red, but this one up here in the blue and red is definitely the one to go for. Now we can go into a little bit more detail, even though that took longer than I expected. Okay, so that's the Iron Spider-Man. Full range of articulation, full ball joint shoulders, elbows, everything's double jointed, wide jointed hips, so it's not the best there. Individual finger articulation, and he does have an ankle pivot, so pretty much the full gamut. No problems there. Pretty cool figure. Spider-Hulk, we don't really need to worry about that. He's got Hulk-style articulation, so he's not exactly the most posable figure because he's all big and clunky, but he does have individually articulated fingers with knuckle joints, so that's pretty cool. Moving on, let's do the Hasbro ones. The Big Time and Future Foundation, full run of articulation. They have the new style ankle pivot, which is the peg in the foot, so it's kind of an angled pivot, but it's still pretty cool. He has one fist and one web slinging hand. The Miles Morales Spider-Man, the black and red one, he doesn't have much articulation in the neck at all. It's just a swivel and he's kind of hunched over, so it's not the best. But otherwise, he's got the full range of motion everywhere. He's got the new ankle pivots, wide jointed hips, so it's not perfect, but pretty cool. And he's got the butterfly joint just like the Big Time Spidey and Future Foundation. Doing the, whatever this one is, Scarlet Spider, if that's what it is. Like I said, he's the same body as Claw, so basic articulation, simple wrist pivots, and no ankle rocker, just the ankle pivot. Does have an ab crunch, but his hips are pretty thick, so he can't pose too well. He's not going to be one of the most posable figures. The Black Suit Spidey, full range of articulation, same exact body as the Big Time and Future Foundation Spider-Man, butterfly shoulders, that whole deal. He actually has different forearms though, because they put new ones on the black and or on the green and the white one. So he has a swivel in the forearm and at the wrist, and he does not have ankle rockers, unfortunately. He has an extra shin swivel that the other ones don't have, but I would gladly take an ankle rocker over a shin swivel. So, pretty good articulation, but the lack of a shin swivel on any Spider-Man is a major downfall, I think. The Cyborg Spider-Man, or Cyber Spider-Man, he's been called different things. I think this actual figure is Cyber Spider-Man, so I can't say for sure. I'm pretty sure the Cyborg one has that bandana and the eye and that kind of stuff. But anyway, this guy has standard ML articulation, no wrist articulation at all though, and everything else is pretty good though, I believe. He doesn't technically have an ab crunch or a waist swivel, but he has that diaphragm joint and it's pretty effective. He has some really, really cool sculpt work, so you should pick him up. And again, I think I've reviewed all of these except for the regular movie figure. Let me zoom out real quick. I'm pretty sure I've reviewed all of these individually except for that guy and these two guys, these two no-name ones. I don't know if I did that one, but it's the same as that one. I know I did him, and I may not have reviewed him. But I'm pretty sure everyone else has gotten a review. I don't know if I did him either, actually. So if you need to look up any more detail about these guys, check my playlists. If it's not one of the ones I've reviewed, then look for somebody else's because I didn't do it. But there you go. Okay, let's move on. We did that whole top row. Let's move down to this guy right here. I believe that's the Fearsome Foes again. Really good batch of articulation. He has a really nice type of butterfly joint. You can see the seam right there. It works way better than the kind on that guy right there. That's an ugly joint. It doesn't really give you that much. This one gives you a little bit more, so that's cool. ab crunch, waist twist. The waist twist actually has a little of other extra motion in there, so that gives you a little bit better articulation. Full range in the elbows. He's got the spindly arms, the more skinny build, so you're not going to have any range of motion problems. Individual finger articulation, T-jointed hips with a good ball joint there, so he's got good range of motion there. He's got a nice ankle rocker. Pretty much everything you could want in a Spider-Man articulation-wise, he has it. Again, I don't care for his head too much, and that is why this one right here, the McFarlane one, I think that's my favorite Spider-Man. Again, it's the exact same body as that one, but he's got the McFarlane style head, so that's a super nice figure. He's definitely got that skinnier build, which some people like, some people don't. And the ones that don't like the skinny build tend to choose this guy right here. We'll get to him in just a second. One of the major differences between the McFarlane one right there and the black version of the McFarlane figure is, other than the black, is that the paint quality, though it's pretty spotty on this one, this guy's eyes are almost always painted pretty poorly. He's got like lopsided eyes. So that's the biggest detriment to that figure. The line work is actually pretty solid, but the eyes look bad, and that's probably the first thing you notice on the figure. So be aware of that if you're going to buy one. Alright, moving on to the Snapshot Spidey, which is also one of the more popular ones. He has also a really good batch of articulation. Now his is a little more complicated than the butterfly joints on the McFarlane. This guy's shoulder joint has like all kinds of weird stuff going on. It has this weird butterfly joint that goes at an angle. Then it has this extension here, kind of like the Marvel Legends Angel figure and Daredevil, some of the other ones. So he's got like a two-part joint in there, and then the standard ball joint on top of that. So that's pretty cool. And he's got a diaphragm joint here, plus an ab crunch and a waist twist. So he's just loaded with articulation in the torso. Hopefully I can stand him up, and I'll explain why that's a problem. If you'll notice, as I was trying to stand him, the ab crunch is generally really loose. He's leaning backwards. The other release of that same mold, for the most part, is leaning forward. The ab crunch is generally really, really loose. But it's a little bit of a bulkier Spider-Man, and he just looks really good in general. This guy is the only really good release with the light blue on him, so that's probably why he's pretty popular. That one's general dark blue. We get that a lot. So he's popular too, but not quite as much as this one. And that shoulder articulation is pretty nice. If you don't mind the bulbous shoulders, he really has a nice batch of articulation. Individually articulated fingers on that guy as well, and standard leg articulation, nothing really special there. Like I said, I believe that one had webbing also, I just don't have it on him. So that's up to you if you like that or not. The Tobey Maguire movie Spider-Man, this guy also has a really nice batch of articulation. Standard butterfly joint in the shoulder, ball hinge shoulders, ab crunch, waist twist, you know, the whole standard deal. This one doesn't have the articulated fingers because he has the magnets in his hands, this particular version. Let's zoom out just a bit. And I don't care for the magnets being in there because they're not done that well. They're kind of ugly. The body on this one is probably the best of all of them. Focus on the guy in front, not the back camera. Come on. So as you can see, he just has a really nice sculpt. All that texturing, all the webbing, everything's done really well. And he's darker blue than most of the other ones. I don't know why. I don't normally like that, but this one, it just appealed to me. And the paintwork on the face is pretty spot on. So I do like the movie figures, just most of them aren't as good as I would have liked. This one I do for some reason. Like I said, the Amazing Spider-Man movie figure, it's got potential. It's not painted as well as it should be. None of the webbing is painted. The spider's painted pretty well. The blue parts are painted okay. The ankle articulation's good, knees are good, and the elbows are good. Everything else is downhill from there. The shoulders and the chest are really narrow. The hips are really wide. And it's not as easy to pose him as you would think to make him look good anyway. The head's kind of peanut shapey. I don't know. It's just not my favorite. The Marvel Select version is way better. It's probably a little bit too big to go Marvel Legends scale, but I just don't really care for this figure too much. The Mafex one's definitely a better choice, but obviously it costs like, what, 5 times as much? So that's up to you guys. I'll get the Mafex one if they make a version with the second movie eyes, because I don't like the yellow eyes too much. So we'll do that later. Alright, one last one to look at, and that is this guy. These two guys. I'll zoom out so you can see what I'm talking about here. So these guys, they're the cheaper versions of Spider-Man. I don't know what line. I think it might have been Spider-Man Classics and then maybe a reissue. Not sure. As you can see, they have those clear eyes that I was telling you about, and that's because they had something that could peg in and make them light up. So unless you really want a Spider-Sense Spider-Man with light up eyes, if you bought this and you painted the eyes white, he'd be more than acceptable. He's a really cool figure. He has standard articulation everywhere, except for he's got the cut joint hips, which isn't the best, but you will get enough posability out of him to where it's not too big of an issue. So if you're looking for a cheap alternative to a McFarlane Spider-Man or a different one, we have the blue and the black version. I have the blue and the black version. We have it available to us. I'm not sure how to look him up on eBay. Maybe Spider-Sense Spider-Man. And then if you just wanted to paint the eyes, you really have a decent Spider-Man figure. He's got the individually... Oh, no, he doesn't. I'm sorry. He's got sculpted hands, no individual articulation. But he does have the full run of articulation everywhere else. So, if you... oh, one last thing I forgot to mention is due to the lighting, it's only a cut joint for the head, so that's not ideal. But like I said, it's a super cheap alternative, or at least it used to be, to the McFarlane Spider-Man, which it's pretty similar in build to. If you look, they're both pretty slim, and they're both blue. So the only Spider-Man which I don't have here, and I don't know why I don't have one, I just never got one, I guess, is the first appearance Spider-Man, though his hips are a little blocky and I don't care for it too much, and I don't like the eyes on the first appearance Spider-Man. He has the full run of articulation also, and is a decent figure. It's just not my cup of tea. So if you're looking for a first appearance take on Spider-Man, just look for first appearance Marvel Legends Spider-Man. I believe that's the Sentinel series, and it is a good figure. I just don't happen to have it. So there it is, guys. There's my Ultimate Spider-Man comparative review. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more figure reviews, more custom figures, and other good stuff. And in the meantime, keep collecting.